very important that you start reading newspapers early on. Start with the basics one, or now YouTube has a great deal of content centered around economics. So if you are not an avid reader, maybe start seeing what's happening in your economy.
Hello and welcome to Ecoholics Toppers Talk. We have Parul with us, and Parul has cracked the RBI DEPR examination, an examination for Grade B officer grade, and now she has entered into the new journey of policy making and decision making with RBI. So, Parul, how are you feeling, and how was the first feeling which when you told your parents and everyone about the success in this examination?
So I'm feeling great. In fact, I'm feeling blessed. I think, so initially when I got the result, I couldn't believe it because RBI was always happening in the background, given that I was also appearing for Indian Economic Service and their interview happened first. So my main focus area was majorly IES. And after the IES interview, this was happening. So I think I got a rough timeline of around 20 days, out of which I couldn't devote a lot of time to RBI. But I believe that overall it feels like a great achievement, given that, it came at a time when I really needed it. So it was a sense of relief, I think relieving. And it, of course, it feels now, if I look back in retrospect, it feels like all the effort that I had put in through the course of my preparation journey finally paid off. So it feels great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe that there has been a long sense of, courage that you have devoted your time to economics, to the field of this study for these examinations. So I would like to know from you, so when did it all start? When did you start preparing for these examinations for economics? And when did you believe that, okay, I probably can, do this job?
Okay. So I'll start from, getting enrolled into BA Economics Honors. So I really enjoyed economics in my bachelor's, and that motivated me in my pursuit of, joining DSC for my postgraduate in the same discipline. So, but, DSC has this thing that it often leads you to academic exhaustion, which I call it. So after the end of DSC, I felt that, I needed a break from academics and I needed a break from studying. So I wanted to explore corporate and, analytics and whatever lucrative job offers you were offered. So I took a campus placement and I was working within the analytics domain for a good 1.5 years before taking that plunge that I want to try for policy. So I think that for me, it was more about going through an acid test or a litmus test to understand that where do I belong. So I had that luxury, and I actually gave myself a good 1.5 years before switching my entire focus towards public policy. So I had a strong motivation to begin with. So in 2021, I resigned from my job, and it was a good job. I was working at American Express, and I realized that I envision myself, in the next 1 decade at least, belonging to academic/public policy space. That was where I wanted to be. After analyzing data and working in those corporate roles, I worked at 2 banks. So I got a fair idea what I want to do or what I don't want to do particularly. So that was my motivation. So in 2021, I started preparing, and I gave full preparation a good 1 year. So 2021 to 2022, I was just preparing. I was just transitioning, and the world was reeling under pandemic. So of course, things were a bit slower. And then in 2022, I took my first attempt at Indian Economic Service and RBI. And I couldn't clear both by small margins. So again, RBI wrote the mains or phase 2. But I could not make it to the interview list by 8 marks. And for IES also, I could not make it to the interview list by 1 mark. So I kind of realized that, now the marginal effort that will be needed would be lesser. So I started working. I switched to academics. I was teaching. So I've been teaching for over 1.5 years now. I've taught at multiple places in the capacity of a full-time lecturer, guest faculty, got enrolled into a PhD program also in the process. So I think for me, it was always about doing these exams after a point of time along with something else. So
Right.
they were not something that I was pursuing full time because I was doing my PhD, I was teaching at two places. But at the same point of time, I was also taking these exams because I understand that there is this inherent luck component, and I am a risk averse individual. So um, I kind of had my backups ready that in case public policy does not get translated in the short term, I would really want to be an academician and complete my PhD, have a good teaching career, and pursue public policy on the sidelines. So that was the broader idea, and this has led me to this place. So the only thing that was constant through the journey was the appetite to learn more at every step.
Correct. Absolutely. I think very well put, Parul. It's not just the idea of cracking an examination, but also planning through the examination, planning through your own journey that you have an existing job or you are pursuing something, let's say that you mentioned about academics. So with that, if there is if there is some aspiration of yours, you can do it together. I think it's a remarkable journey of yours that you have portrayed, and you have shown a lot of courage, I believe, in doing all those tasks simultaneously, because of course I truly think that doing PhD alone can be time consuming, energy consuming, draining, and then along with that having a job and then studying for your aspired goal. So everything of course can become exhausting, but I mean, you have shown a lot of courage. I would like you to tell me those areas or those times where you felt that okay, probably I will have to take a step back, or probably I will have to stop for a while, let me think clearly, and then let me start again. So because many a time students face these issues where they are just running the race of cracking the examination or so, and they forget what was the agenda when they started off. So when were those times and how did you proceed with it?
So I think for me it was back in last to last December, that is December of 2022. So I was working with a private college in the capacity of a full-time professor, and I realized I was not able to take out time for myself or for my exams. I was getting too involved in that job, and it was a 9 to 5 job. I had to punch in, punch out. I realized that I was forgetting or letting go of the broader perspective that I had when I ventured into academics. I was just teaching, I was not able to devote any time. So I kind of retracted and I converted that full time opportunity into a visiting role. And I went back in terms of my pay and in terms of the stability that I had. Because when I go from a full time job to a part time job, it comes with seasonality in terms of the pay. As long as the classes are on, I'll get my pay. The classes are off, I don't have any source of income. So I think I was a bit flexible with that. And I knew that I wanted to take one more proctored attempt at these exams before I finally committed to any other alternative job. So for me, it was the hard step to take, but I believed that, in the end, I should never look back at those years of my life and think that I should have given one more attempt. So I think, sometimes you have to take the hard decision. You have to see your cost benefit analysis, as we say in economics, and then you weigh your pros and cons and you take a balanced decision. Sometimes it may pay you, sometimes it may not. But, you have to take that basic risk if you really want to get somewhere. Sometimes people go on long study breaks. Now it may work for other people, but for me, I know that I should also have some source of confidence being derived from something else that I'm doing alongside. So it makes me more confident that if this doesn't work out, I have plan B. But for some people, they need to give a dedicated full 8 hours a day to be able to translate. So I think that's a personal strategy.
Absolutely.
But knowing where you see yourself in the next 1-2 years and having a backup also is very important.
Correct. Uh, as of what I understand from your own academia and interest, research probably has been a very the subject that you have been interested in for a very long time, and I think that was also a strength of yours that made you interested in examinations like economics service or RBI DPR. So, how did you start with what was like the first time where you inclined yourself towards research and analytics and quant? And what would you like to tell the students who are young aspirants of economics who are just in their probably their school and high school, and they want to aspire for a bigger opportunity? What would you like to tell those as well, specifically for research?
Yeah. So I think it's the inquisitiveness and also a lot of comprehensive reading that will give you that bent of mind. So it's very important early on from your early years to be a little interested in how to apply the classroom concepts to real life situations, or how, for example, a very simple concept like ISLM, right? So when we say that we use fiscal policy, it is simply shifting of the IS curve. How do you relate that, right? Expansionary fiscal policy, or if I say counter cyclical fiscal policy during the times of pandemic. So it's very important that you start reading newspapers early on. Start with the basics one, or now YouTube has a great deal of content centered around economics. So if you are not an avid reader, maybe start seeing what's happening in your economy and start connecting that to your discipline, whichever discipline you're studying. Once you start making the connections, I think the inquisitiveness grows, wherein you want to experiment that, okay, fine, now where can I apply this particular concept to a real life scenario? Once you have that bent of mind, I think then you would want to explore more into any particular area, any particular topic of interest, and that will of course give you an edge. That provides you some form of intrinsic motivation in your pursuit of these exams, and also helps you think analytically and critically and improves your attempt. So every time you go, all these exams require your creative expression at some point. In any one of those papers, there will be a requirement of your analysis, your creativity, and how much you decipher the economy through your own lens, right? So I think it's very important that you start being passionate about economics in general if you really want to crack the exam, because these are highly competitive, as you know. So I think if you need to develop that bent of mind early on by being more interested in applying economics to real world scenarios.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think coming out from that, book and getting down to application and real life experiences, I think that's what economics is all about. And you have very well put for even the students who would listen to this later. Parul, another aspect of the examination is interview.
Yeah.
Interviews are amalgamation of your personality test plus some kind of knowledge that you have and how generally aware you are about the economy and whatever, like for example, if you're giving an RBI examination, so definitely the banking sector knowledge is important. So how did you prepare for all of that?
Okay. So I think that I was at an edge with the interview preparation because I was teaching in an economy to MA students at DTU. So I was of course teaching at master's level. So I had like the basics of how everything functions broadly in the economy. But I think a very important part of the preparation is that you undertake newspaper reading very seriously. So, and you are inquisitive while reading the newspaper. So, for example, you may come across a line that says that so and so rate by RBI is changed. So, you should have that inquisitiveness that, okay, what exactly is this rate? What does this rate do? So, you go back in Google. So, a lot of back reading, not just reading the headlines, but also trying to gauge through the headlines that what exactly is happening. So, for example, if the risk weights are increasing and RBI is trying to address the growing loans that are growing, personal loans. It's increasing the risk weight. So what is CRAR? What role does risk weights play? How is it going to get transmitted into the monetary system? So these questions should come naturally to you while reading those newspapers, and you backtrack and you try to formulate a story in your head, so that if you are required to talk about that, you should have at least 3 minutes worth of content to deliver that in that particular time frame. So I think
Right.
that is very important.
Absolutely. Also, when we talk about personality, so of course everyone knows that personality would not, you would not be able to build a very outdoorsy personality in a day and a communicative personality in a day. So how did you start with your preparation in bettering your communication, in bettering your although of course because you come from that teaching background, so I think communication skills and expression would be something that comes to you inertly, and I think that would have helped you. But when we talk about an examination such as conducted by a very esteemed organization, there's a lot of anxiety. So how do you contain your anxiety, contain that negative energy, and put forth the best foot that you could in that final interview?
I think there are three things. One, that you should actively be talking to people around you that inspire you, motivate you. You should have these discussion rounds with them. So these can be your professors, your mentors. Second, I think that coaching center mocks play an important role. For example, Ecoholics and other coaching institutes, they organize mocks. So mocks also form a very important part of the strategy, because they give you proactive feedback. They tell you where you can improve. So I think that is also a very imperative part of the whole preparation process. And I also feel that you go and you express yourself in front of the mirror if expression is a problem. For me, frankly, it was never a problem, so I never faced that issue. But I've seen a lot of candidates who have that problem. They would proactively try to speak in front of the mirror, try to deliver in front of the mirror, try to talk to their peers, to their friends, take guidance and mentoring from people that can help them. So I think it's a broader strategy that you may follow. If you, and it's not something you can do overnight, right? So it starts early on. So maybe, once you start reading newspapers actively, maybe start discussing that with people around you, with your family, with your friends. So I think that will help somewhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. Parul, concludingly, I would just like to, ask you to tell something or give a message to the students learning economics and aspiring for different economics opportunities. A few things, a few ways in which they can make a mark in the field of economics and, make some change in the field of economics.
Okay. So one thing I'll tell them is that, your beliefs are self-propelling. So what you believe in, you become. And we say that, you really need to believe yourself if you're venturing into the preparation of any economics-based exam. If you're trying to crack any exam for that matter, MA entrances or any competitive exams within economics, I think you should have a very strong belief, and you should not let anyone else tell you you do not know it. One is that. Second, I think you should develop that passion. Like I mentioned earlier, you should have a clear connection of how to go from economic concepts to real world problems, because in the end, economics is about best allocation of scarce resources, right? So in a nutshell, that is what economics is. So you will have to make sure that you make the best possible allocation of your time, of your efforts in the pursuit of this particular discipline. So that is very important.
Two very important things that have been mentioned by a teacher and now a policymaker. I congratulate you from the whole team of Ecoholics, Parul, that you whatever you have aspired for, you have definitely achieved it and even more. And I wish that all the great opportunities that are there out there in the realm of policy making and decision making, you get them, and you have made your own path. You have rerouted all those things that because you wanted something bigger, something better, and you have achieved it. So congratulate yourself for that, and great wishes to you.
Thank
All
you
the
so
very
much.
best.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Parul, for your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.